Hello everyone, and welcome back to Lightsaber and I's Soul Locke playthrough. Now, Lightsaber and I have been grinding Pokemon those last couple episodes, but I think that's far less important than the conversation. I've cared a lot less about my grind than the conversation that Lightsaber and I are having, and I feel like you are too. Guys, I'm going to give the floor over to Lightsaber. He's going to talk about what he wants to talk about and what he wants to see in the perfect, and I mean perfect, Pokemon game. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 5, and we're going to move right on into it.
75. We're not back on episode 5.
Did I say 5?
Hey guys, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. So, we talked a lot about what we wanted to see as far as content drops, whether we wanted to see a 6-month drop period, which is what I was thinking originally, or if we wanted to see it more spread out, more RPG elements entered in. And we're not in total agreement on what we want to see there. So if you have an opinion that differs from ours, let us know, because this is a game that I have been theorizing for years. Since Gen 4 came out, I was just like, if you give me a game with all of them, I will throw hundreds of dollars at this game.
That's 100% worth noting. I would pay $60 per expansion for the game that we're discussing right now.
I would probably go 40 as super comfortable, but I would end up dropping
pay
to
60. If Nintendo said, look, we're releasing this game,
and it's exactly what we're saying,
it's $60. Even let's say it was 50 and I had to buy a $20 expansion after 4 to 6 months to carry me through to the next year.
Oh no, what I'm talking about is $40 for base, $40 for Gen 2, $40 for Gen 3.
No. I'm saying $50 for base.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then like
a $20 expansion.
There's a mini expansion. And then a main expansion.
And then a main game.
Okay.
Like Comet. So in Destiny terms, a Comet expansion at full price, and then mini expansions.
Okay.
So let's say base game was $40. I would be willing to pay $40 for content before the next $40 expansion.
Okay. It's.
But we're also talking about content, though. So, like, if in my mind, the level of content that I'm talking about for the main story expansion, well worth $60.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if I can't finish the content, like, in the way I'm looking, because value is hard for different folks, right? It's hard to talk about value, and I don't want to tangent too hard, but it's hard to talk about value. But if I'm talking a 60... Here, wait. Can I... I absolutely can. If I'm talking about value, $60 to one person might not be $60 to another person. But if I can get at least 30 hours of gameplay out of a game, $60 is a more than fair ask. And depending on the game, like there's a Bungie developer I follow. He got 20 hours out of time. Is it called Time Loop?
Deathloop?
Thank you, Lightsaber. Deathloop. He got 20 hours out of Deathloop, and he said it was a masterpiece and one of the best games he's ever played. So a game like that, absolute, like, value is subjective. But with a Pokemon game, if I could get 25 to 35 hours out of a game, I would pay $60 for it before expansions.
Okay. I see you. And yeah, regardless
for story content, I'm not counting side quests.
Yes.
Obviously, side quests inflate that number. I am talking. I just did story. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It absolutely does. I'm watching to see if this thing explodes or not.
Baton Bat?
So,
fuck out of here with the Pardon my language. Sorry, get out of here with Baton Pass. Yeah, give up on that. We don't want that.
Surf is gonna hit. That's what I want to do. So, we've talked a lot about what it might look like for PvP, what it might look like for you to go back and play old content with your buddy, what it will look like for raids, what end game content might be, which honestly, I do think they're getting close to what we were envisioning as good end game content in Sword and Shield.
Absolutely.
I think Nintendo is going a fantastic direction. From a PvE perspective, I do want to see battle towers, battle frontiers. That we've talked about that before on this show. How the battle frontiers of Emerald and Platinum just make those games.
They would need something per expansion.
It would need something per expansion, but like
per area. Per area, sorry.
Yeah. And what I think, this is kind of where I'm going to get into the new context. What I think I would like to see are buffs to the areas that you beat the Elite Four in, capture all the Pokemon in the Dex in, beat the champions of the Battle Frontier in. And maybe the Battle Frontier is that mid-season drop where you play through the base game and you paid $40 for the base game. And then, what was that?
I didn't expect Psybeam to do so much to the Bonsley.
Oh, yeah, special defense is crap. You played through the base game, you paid $40-50 for the base game, and here we come 9 months later, $20 to buy the end game Battle Frontier area. And maybe this is too pay to win. I can see this being too pay to win. But clearing the Battle Frontier, like getting that gold medal, means all of a sudden your catch rates go up. Or you can buy Pokeballs for less. Like the economy goes more in your favor.
I don't think that's pay to win. I'm gonna be super controversial here and say that if you granted, when you say that, to get the gold medal complete Battle Frontier, that is a challenge. Like that is a 100%. That is an achievement that like when you see on a game, like 5% of players have achieved this.
Yeah. Easy.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not easy. It's not like and I'm not saying the previous Battle Frontier was easy or anything like that. Please don't fucking rage out in the comments. But I'm saying that it should not be easy. That intentionally, what I am saying is that it should be an absolute grind to get that, right? And like, and not to say that people should not engage. There should be rewards as you progress through that. Like if that is the DLC content, as well as like the little story stuff that they would add in this perfect world. There would be tiered rewards. So you got to 10, you get this. You got to 20, you get this. You got to 30, you get this. All the way up to 100%, or whatever it ends at, right? All the way up to 100%, and now you have an increased catch rate.
Yeah,
and that increased catch rate should stack with I've caught every Pokemon already.
Well, if the I caught every Pokemon already is the shiny stuff, then the increased catch rate is going to be just like base. Now your Pokeball is 1.5 instead of 1. And your Ultra Ball
I just mean that they stack. That not only do you experience more shinies, but it's also easier to catch them.
Ah, yes.
Quick question. When we are recording this, do we interrupt the gaming in your household?
We can talk about that after a session.
Fair enough.
So, I just don't want to get too far off of this track because...
Absolutely.
Thoughts. I have to ask you, did you ever really sink your teeth into the Battle Frontier of Emerald or Platinum?
No.
Okay.
I played it. I
don't think you understand how difficult those were. You were saying don't rage on me in comments. I'm not going to rage out on you, but I'm going to do some education here. The bosses of those arenas, so the way that you got gold medal is you had to reach certain floors. And there was a floor where you fought a boss for a silver medal. And then double that or so, not always double, but like you're usually about 60-70% of the way done with gold when you find the silver boss. And the gold boss walks in. Now, each of these arenas have restricted Pokemon. You can't use a Groudon in these arenas. These bosses can!
You can't use any legendaries?
Not. So they have essentially S tier legendaries and A and lower tier legendaries. So while Kyogre is banned, Latios might not be.
Okay. Heard.
And just that, I don't remember who was banned and who wasn't, but that's kind of how it works, is there was the S tier and there was the less than.
Okay. That makes sense.
These bosses had the S tier Pokemon and had perfect IVs. So it was legitimately very difficult for even someone who was super invested in the game and like breeding for these perfect IVs like myself to deal with these guys. I would not
want it to be that difficult. I would want it to be difficult, but I would not want you to have to have a perfect matchup. Because, okay, but the reason I say that is I would also not want it to be the same each time. I would not want you to be able to plan your run.
So, here's the thing. The way that it worked, the bosses always had the same Pokemon. Always. But everybody else in your run, where you've got to do 10 floors before you get to that boss,
that would be
super
fine.
Similar to Palace of the Dead.
That would be fine.
Yeah.
It's
actually super similar to Palace of the Dead in Final Fantasy, where you run in and the first guy you find out has Gengar. Well, in this battle tower, there are 3 different Gengars that can show up. One that's based around using this, one that's based around doing this, and one that's based around doing this. You have no clue which Gengar he has. So that's the way that those
super fair.
It was a really good system where it did become if you did your research, you had a much higher chance of success. So if you saw there's a Gengar, you would know it's not guaranteed to be a special attacker. There's one of them that runs Belly Drum Substitute and then tries to sweep you with Shadow Punch. Like, that type of thing exists, and you need to be aware of it, so if you see Substitute pop, you change your strategy. But it's also not a perfect randomization, don't bother looking anything up.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what I would prefer. The boss should be a boss.
Yes. And
maybe in this perfect game, the bosses are something you queue against with the other gamers. So maybe
Not for this. I don't think this should be raid. I don't think these should be raid content.
Okay.
Now, granted, there are duos battle tower where you and your buddy step in and it's 2v2 straight up, and you've got a different boss for that guy. So that perfectly acceptable, awesome. But I don't think that this should be a raid style scenario for that. What I do think is that these bonuses aren't game breaking. And that's always going to be super important. When you're looking at an increased catch rate, you are looking at turning a legendary catch from a 3% at perfection to, or actually I guess at true perfection, it's probably right now around a 10%.
Yeah.
Maybe you're buffing it like you're using a timer ball after round 40, you've got it asleep, you've got it at 1 HP. I think that's probably close to 7 to 10%. Maybe you're only buffing it by 3% at the end.
I think it's a little higher than that. So a Pokeball on a sleeping legendary is like 3%.
In the red. So a Pokeball is ×1. So right now it's about 12 because the highest multiplier in the game is a ×4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Close out that window now that we have that information.
So so like a legendary Pokemon is like a 3%.
Yeah. So we'd be changing it to where a legendary Pokemon, let's say the highest multiplier became 5 or 5.5% instead, which is a 25 to 30% increase.
With the Pokeball?
Over previous.
Or with an Ultra Ball?
No, so a Pokeball is ×1.
Yeah.
The highest multiplier of a ball in the game is ×4. So like a quick ball on round 1 is ×4.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Like like in the game we're playing right now.
Yes.
A Pokeball on a red HP sleeping enemy is 3%.
And what I'm saying is I can take that information and know the Pokeball is not affecting anything because it's literally ×1. It does not change the equation.
Since it's ×4, it becomes 12%.
Yes.
When it's sleep. Okay, no, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
So maybe instead of ×4, we make it ×5. We give a 25% increase to all Pokeballs. Or all catching balls. So now our legendary catches 15% instead of 12%. Small but noticeable.
Okay.
Like if we wanted to go to 6%, it'd be almost like ×6, it'd be a 50% increase to all Pokeballs. So a standard Pokeball would be 1.5, an Ultra Ball would be 3.75, like that style. And because Ultra Balls right now are 2.5
times. Is that only the difference? Wow.
Yeah, there's not as big of a difference between Ultra Balls and Pokeballs. It's just Ultra Balls are mass purchasable, as opposed, well, later games made items like Dusk Balls and Timer Balls mass purchasable. But
okay, another tangent. This is a short one though. Promise. I promise. This is a short one.
Okay.
Ball crafting needs to exist.
Yes.
Get your apricots, craft your balls. Maybe you can only do some per towns. That's it. That's the tangent. I'm past it.
Okay. And honestly, it should be like there should be instanced player property. Instanced Final Fantasy. Instanced player property.
Break into that a little bit for me.
I am not going to rant about the current Final Fantasy 14 player housing, but it is not optimal.
Okay, never. When you said player property, I thought you meant properties, like strength, dex.
Properties such as owning land,
and some
property.
Sort of clan or guild system.
Yeah,
you have your
absolutely,
team.
Absolutely,
you have your team of Pokemon trainers.
Yeah, but once we get past, like, there has to be instanced player property where you go after maybe you had to get 6 gym badges. Or maybe it was awarded to you after you freed Silphco. Or the ability to buy it, like a Skyrim style. You became a Jarl, now you have right to purchase property. But once you have the property, that's where you can plant your apricot farms. And your apricot farm in Kanto can hold 50 apricot trees. And it will never go over that. But then you get to Johto, and you get another area with 50 apricot trees.
It would need a better system. It would need to be instanced.
That's what I said. Instanced.
Okay. Yeah, it would need to be instanced because I do like in Final Fantasy.
But that was the whole reason.
Yes, so I do like in Final Fantasy that they have it like it's a real house. It's a for realsies housing market, right? I do like that. It adds immersion into that game. It adds value. Like there's a housing market in Final Fantasy, right? And the
there
market...
is, and one of them costs 999 million gil.
Jesus. That's got to be like the biggest house ever.
There is literally a house that sells for gil cap. When it sells. Like, people are waiting to buy it, and they're at gil cap.
Yeah. So
yeah, it has to be instanced. You can invite your party over to your house so that they can jump in as an instanced party, but it is an instanced housing rather than Final Fantasy's community housing.
I'd like to see guild instance. So some form of making a clan
would be cool.
Making a clan, making a team, making whatever they would want to call it, right? But you have your group, and then anyone in that group can access that house. Whether or not you're on... Yeah. So I would prefer that. I would prefer that anyone in my clan or group has full access to the resources. And it would be a community trust thing, right? Where maybe you get burned. It wouldn't be anything that you as a player would allow just anyone into.
Fair.
You know what I mean? You would have to. It would have to be like, say I'm streaming that game. Mm-hmm. Maybe I have if you're a subscriber, you have access to this. You know what I mean? Or something where someone has shown that they are invested. And also not willing to fuck over, pardon my language again, fuck over the greater community. Because what I wouldn't want, because you're right, I wouldn't want some Joe to come in and be like, can I join your group? Come in and farm 50 apricot trees, get their balls, and then leave. I would not want to see that.
Well, you wouldn't see that, but also just the function of apricot trees means that they're going to take real time to grow. So it's going to take 6 hours after that apricot tree is farmed until it produces more apricots. And that would be my problem, is if I'm playing at the same time as Joe, and Joe and I trust each other a lot, but we're both wanting timer balls for this catch because we think the animation looks cool with the Pokemon we're trying to catch. And Joe hops on 30 minutes before, sees that I have 20 timer ball trees set up. We have this thing. Hey, we're all good.
Listen, I have a solution. I don't know that it's a good solution. I don't even know that it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Double instance. So you have your building. Not double instance per se, but you have your building. Okay. And then there is a garden. And maybe that garden doesn't take as much area on the map as when you go into it. And then it's a sprawling garden. And there's a cap, but you can only... There's some way to know how much you've contributed versus how much you can take. Like, maybe anyone in the guild or team can take 1 or 2. And that ramps up as you plant. So, let's say you can take 1 or 2. You take those 2 and you plant 2. The next time you can take 4.
No.
Some way.
No.
No, okay, no, that's a bad idea.
I
Admittedly,
can't get with that. I can't get with that.
it's about no. It was stupid the moment it came into my mouth. Oh, but does that okay?
No, I really do think the garden needs to stay instanced, and maybe
you have your garden. So there's a garden area, and when you go into it, it's your garden in the clan.
Well,
and you have access to that garden because you're in the clan.
Maybe it is a perk of being part of a team or clan that you have access to the team garden as well as your private garden. Maybe that's just a perk of playing with other players. And the team garden is 100 apricots. But in order to create a team, you have to have at least 3-4 players. Maybe that's...
Okay. What if it's... You have a team garden where
bro? I don't want to cut us off. But our tiny tangent has turned us into the longest episode of our recording tonight. So we're going to wrap up these fights, guys. But it's hard not to get hyped for something that sounds as cool as this does. And we want to know, like, obviously we're taking everything we say with a grain of salt because we don't believe Nintendo will ever make this.
This will never exist.
If you will humor us and jump in, what are some things that we haven't talked about yet? Because there's a lot. Trust me. Someone started the episode by saying I was doing the talking. There's a lot that we haven't hit yet. And some of it might just be the stuff that you are dead set on. This is what would do it. Or this is what you haven't talked about yet. This is what would be really cool. Let us know. And lastly, guys, thank you for tuning in. This has been episode 75. We've been having a blast. I think after this episode, we're done with the grind. I mean, I'm looking over there. You're back on Sky, which is what we said we were going to just keep Sky at level 41.
Yeah, so I'm bringing Sky up at this point while we're just chit-chatting.
Yeah. So next episode, we are progressing, and we're excited about it as you are. So y'all have a wonderful day. We will see you tomorrow. You have a good one.
Take care.